Getting right into it. How you doing, Bev?
Good.
You ready to be on the hot seat a little bit?
Little bit.
Little bit.
Little bit.
Thank you for
So we
listening to the
we
Blending
coming out
FAB
running.
podcast.
First
This
question. How was your
podcast has been
childhood?
brought to you by our sponsor, Chosen Counselors.
Challenging.
Make sure you hit subscribe
Very
if you haven't
challenging.
already, and
I had a
follow us on
difficult childhood.
Instagram at blending_fab.
My father and my father was mentally ill, and
Check out
so
this snippet
because
from
of
our next episode.
his situation as a child, we went from home to home. My mom had to run from him because he wanted to kill my mother, and it was so important to protect us kids. So she separated all of us one by one. We each lived somewhere. And she kept myself and my brother, which is the two youngest ones. And I remember staying at different houses, and then her leaving me at my godfather's house at age 4 or 5 years old. I remember being there, sharing my childhood with my god sister, playing and such, but always understanding that this is not really my family. And throughout the neighborhood, I had kids that would heckle me, call me crazy because your dad crazy, all kinds of make fun of me in school. So it was a very lonely childhood, not in as much as loneliness, in as much as, well, there weren't people around me, but mentally, having people to play with and talk with and share things with. I just didn't have that childhood. I didn't have that glorious with toys and Christmas is coming. And for me, you had to wake up. You had to grow up. You had to do what you had to do because that was the situation in which my mom just happened to be in and my father was. And it didn't end. That situation didn't end until I think I was about 8 years old, where we moved to a totally different state, a different city, San Fernando. We moved from Williamsville in Trinidad to San Fernando, which is one of the major cities in Trinidad. And once we moved there, God blessed it. I was able to stay at a school consistently. And through there, my education and more stability, more consistency and such. But before that, it was a mess. It was a lot of abuse on my mom's part. My dad abused my mom. And seeing that as a child, walking from school and seeing my dad beating my mom and her running and just it was a really tough. Yeah, till this day, I am so overprotective with children because of that. Daughter would often say to me, "Mom, you're so overprotected," when she was younger. And I never allowed her to go into houses or places without me understanding who the parent was. I was very overprotective, and I know it stemmed from that. Protecting a child's mind, their heart, protecting their love space. As parents, sometimes we don't have a choice, but I did.
Were your mom and dad married?
No. Yes, they were. Yes, they got married they got married right before me.
Okay.
Yes, just before they had me, according to what my mom said.
Got it. So Sorry, say it again.
I carry my dad's last name.
Okay.
So my mom is Vincent. I carry Beverly Francois, which is my dad. My dad had a lot of French background.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in seeing that, because you're married now, right?
Yes, I am.
What was your thoughts on marriage? Like seeing how your mom and dad was. Do you feel like that would be how your marriage was? Were you afraid?
First, let me say this. I went through a major daddy syndrome thing. It till this day, sometimes I still have shortcomings of that.
Mm.
Not having a dad in my life and having to deal with a situation like that, it takes away from how you treat men or see men or view men, right? And it's not until Christ and I had formed a relationship with Christ did I see that in myself.
Okay.
Most girls, as they're growing and they have daddy there, that is their first glimpse
Right.
of what a man should really be, or how they should treat them, and such. I didn't have that. I didn't have daddy protecting me. I was running from daddy.
Mm.
So as I grew up and listening to my mother being that strong woman of God,
Yes.
no man can come into this, break this, and who knows, she had a whole bunch of emotional ties or things that she had to deal with.
Mm.
God rest her soul. But that was one of my major hindrance in getting married. I remember when my husband started to date me, I would try to sabotage the dating experience because there is that I don't trust you.
Yes.
I don't trust you.
Yes.
You guys, I know it, but what God had to show me was that it stemmed all the way from back then to now, and this daddy syndrome that you have, it has to be healed. Even with dating, I never dated a lot of guys. I never had a big dating life. Like, some people would say, girl, I dated, I did. I was that girl. I was that girl that did church and, school. I didn't do a lot of dating. I can count on my fingers, my one hand, probably how many people I've dated in my whole entire life. Just not a big thing for me. Yeah, I think that the way I looked at men affected the way I dated and affected my mental status on how I view them. So it took God to come in the picture after I started my JJFC, my nonprofit. I worked with a lot of men. And I don't know if it maybe was what God did, in preparation. He always prepares us, right? So my board members were men. I had men for board members. One of them was Reverend Jerry Robinson from the Big D Church. He's still there. He's the head funeral director and reverend at that church. And he treated me like a daddy, a true daddy. The respect, the admiration, the care. I never got that from anyone, any man. God surrounded me with people like Adam from our church, Ethel Deliverance, Adam and Bruce and other men of God. Never made passes, never disrespected me, but always showed me God.
Yes.
And it took God to bring these people into my life as men for me to change my scope, my vision, and how I looked at men. It was very tough. It was extremely tough. So when I dated my husband, while dating him, my husband approached me and we knew each other for so long. We known each other for about 10 years. I lived on Wayne Avenue. His business was right across the street. He owns a mechanic shop, Alston Automotive. And it's amazing. I never knew he liked me. While I was going through my nonprofit and I was, setting up my nonprofit, my JJFC and everything, he would always support with platter sale, donations. I mean, everything. It never skipped a beat when it comes to supporting. But never did I think at all them years that this man had liked me until I went to Trinidad. My mom was sick and I had to go. I helped her and took care of her for a little bit, her and my brother. I helped my brother too. We can take care. My mom had dementia. She died from Alzheimer's dementia.
Okay.
So for about 2 years, I spent in Trinidad just hanging with my mom and just making sure she was okay and taking care of her. I left everything
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to make sure she was all right. While I was there, I knew God told me to go back. So when I came back in 2019, he reached out to me. And when we met and we finally went out, I knew this guy was the guy. I knew God was telling me what he was telling me, right? And I was praying about this thing so hard. I was that type that was like, listen, God. But this man was serious. He knew that all these years I've been watching you. Now that I have you, I want to marry you. And it was like, what? And I was literally sabotaging things. I was testing him. I would say things. I would respond in a certain way, like, let me see if that's what you really want. I tried to. I remember speaking to a man at our church about it, and he said, if this is all these years that you have been single, and now God sent someone to you, are you going to block your blessing, or are you going to open up your mind to the doors and the opportunity and the love that God has for you? You deserve love. And I didn't even think about that because I didn't think that I deserved that. I didn't think that I deserved to have somebody to love me. It's and I know that sounds so far-fetched, but that's a deliverance in itself. It's a deliverance in itself. And it means being delivered from your own personal demons that keep you from moving forward in that area. Even till today, we're verging on our anniversary, and it's been tough, but we enduring, and God is blessing. And I'm thankful for the man of God that he has sent me.
I like that you shared that, because with Blending Fab, it's talking about that process of blending families' attitudes and beliefs, and how your experience was growing up affected you, where you were sabotaging, doing extra tests, doubting, even though you felt like God told you it was. It be like, maybe it's not. Let me test this out a little bit more.
Yeah.
So how did that process go of like your different beliefs when you did finally say, okay, let me give this guy a chance? How was that process of blending?
When I did decide to give him a chance, I saw God move, not just on my behalf, but on his behalf. He had some things that he was dealing with. I had some things that I was dealing with in my own personal space. And so both of us, we complemented each other in that way. And there was a comfortability that started to happen. There was a more trust, because it's very hard for me to trust. And and the thing is, I can speak about me, but we all know both parties come with their own stuff, right? So my husband also is a type that, he's been single for how long? Just like I was. I've been single for 7, 8 years before I met him. I didn't do the dating thing, right? So he was single as well, and been single for over 15 years before me. So it was two independent people who were strong-minded, coming together, trying to trust each other. And I think once we started to recognize that we did. And we complemented each other in the fact that there were things and resources that I may not have had that he helped me with. And there were things that he needed to move forward with, whether business, personal, that I came and I complimented and helped him with. And we both kind of just kicked it off. And it just happened. And he's now he happens to be the person who mentors me a lot of times for my business, because he's been doing business for over 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so God, when he blends you in with someone, and there's often difficulties because the enemy works.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a challenge as well, challenging us, and going through different difficulties, it's hard, especially since we both were single.
Mm-hmm.
Being single is a good thing, but when you've been single for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and this person comes into your life and
Yes.
decides they want to make you something other than what you are, that dependency, that independent spirit that you have, it's hard to kill that.
Mm-hmm.
Till today, I think that. And a lot of things that I would hear my husband telling me that he dislikes, or he has issues with, because every couple have their thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has to do with me being single for so long.
Mm-hmm.
You paid your own bills, you took care of yourself, you never had a oh man,
Right.
Here comes the man.
Yeah.
God, you got to give it up. And I'm thankful though that the husband that I have, he understands the entrepreneurial ship. He understands that walk, and that's important to me because of the role that I play, and the business that I have in business, and helping people with business. So it just, I think we complemented each other, where he just automatically knew the basics of what I was doing. He may not understand the gist of it, but he understands the basics, and his support was always there. He was very real about it. For the first time, I had someone who was saying, this ain't working, but this was going to work. And I had to listen, like, I don't know. He was the one who pushed me for the radio show, for the podcast. I didn't want to do it. I didn't even see that like as a thing. Like, no. Like, no. This is something that you're going to move into, because it's going to take you to a whole level, and it's going to elevate you. And you're not just going to keep doing what you're doing and just stay there. It's important that you get elevated so that you can, he always believed in supporting me and believing in me, and seeing the potentials that sometimes even I can't see. Yeah. And that's the good side about having someone like, to be there next to you, to walk side by side with. The support, when they don't support you, you feel like, it's tough. There are often times where I need him to support me and he can't. He doesn't know, and but yeah, that to me was a big thing, him believing in me and pushing me to my true potential, and still is till this day. If I need him to be, always investing in my business and things that I do, yeah.
Very nice, very nice. So I have a question, because we're talking about the positive sides, but when there were challenging times, right? Because one, you combated a good portion before you said I do, right? And then after you say I do, it's still like a little rocky road, because I always share that when you are friends, it's one level of expectation. When you become closer friends, it's another level where I want you kind of check in on me a little bit more. Then when you start dating, it's another level, because now you got to make sure I got home safe. I want to make sure you got home safe, you ate, things of that sort. And then when you're on the road to marriage, engagement, it's another level, because now it's like, all right, solely for me, don't be looking at nobody else. And then once you're married, it's another level of expectation too. And sometimes we don't realize that the expectation has changed. It's like, but this worked when we were just friends, we were just dating. But yeah, now that we have a different level in our relationship, things have changed. How has that adjustment been? And what are some words of wisdom for those that get to that marriage level and is like, what? You don't like that I cook this way and you've been eating all alone, and you have to adjust to that.
It's a lot of adjustment. I hate when I hear people make this whole marriage thing sound like it's just a walk in the park, and and you see stuff on TV and everybody's laughing and hi, honey.
Yeah.
It's not like that in the real world, people. Because you've got two personalities, especially at the first couple years of marriage. You've got two personalities that are coming together, never lived together, that are now living together. And whereas when you're single or you're dating, you can just leave and go home. I don't feel like bothering with him today.
Yes.
Let me just go home. No.
Yes.
There is nowhere to run. There is no, let me just maybe down in the basement while he upstairs, but there is nowhere to run. And so the only thing you may have is your outlets. For example, I may love TV. I may love other hobbies. He has his cars. He loves doing classic cars, having car shows, doing car shows. That's his thing. And having those things, you tend to go to those things just for breathers or for whatever. You must have that. You cannot consume yourself. This is what I believe. It is so important that when you're going to a marriage that God completes you, because when you do get into the marriage, the man cannot. He cannot. He is not to complete you. You have to find that joy, that peace, that happiness within wherever you are. And I think what oftentimes happens is we go into the marriage thinking this person and marrying this man will make me happy. No, it does not.
That's not.
You've got to work within you. And whatever work that has not been done while you were single has to be done while you're married.
Yeah.
That person has to be able to be patient with you, work with you. And I say this based on the needs also, communication. My God. That is, without that, it dies. It dies. It's a lot of that. And if you're introverted like I am, or like he is as well, that can be very tough, especially when you're going through challenges. Because introvert says, "Let me work it out in the head before I." And he's the same. He's kind of an introvert extrovert because he can really hang out and just be okay. I can't. After a while, I need to get home. I don't want to be too much people. So yeah, I'm very like, okay, what time is it? And he's looking at me like, we can stay about him. I'm done. This is why I need to take my own car. I can't.
Hilarious.
So for me, he's that type. He loves the social life. Even if he has to stay quiet in it, he's okay with that. I need to leave completely away from that space. So we had to understand you have to be understanding. You have to be patient. And you have to be able to accept what they give and what they bring. Reason why I say that is we all come with our mess. We all come with our stuff. We all come with things that we got to work on. Marriage doesn't fix that.
Right.
And so if a person can take a lifetime to fix one thing. So I had to understand that you got to love this person the way they are from the jump.
From the jump.
Or it's not going to work either. You have to get to that place that even if they don't change, even if they are, you have to be willing to love them from wherever they are.
Wherever they are.
Even if you know this is something that's pissing you off.
That part. And it's hard, because like you said, if you haven't dealt with some things and you're expecting this person to be able to help you, one, unrealistic. So we talked about some expectations, but then sometimes we have unrealistic expectations because some of those things that we've been through, they haven't been through, so they can't really walk us through. We have to figure it out. They're helpful as a soundboard, but even if you want them to be a soundboard, you want to also clarify, do you just want me to listen? Do you want me to give feedback? What kind of feedback do you want? Because if I give you feedback and you don't like it, then we got another problem.
And that's always, and humans can be so, especially when you have joined together and two people are trying to make it as one. If one of them come into the marriage as a single-minded person, because that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it could be that's the default mechanism for most men too. They just, I'm not saying anything. I'm not like, certain traits men just normally have, just like certain traits we have with women.
Right.
We talk too darn much. We talk too much.
Sometimes, yes.
It's certain things about us, and I am learning a lot of those things are true when it comes to women or wives. It doesn't say that there isn't a reason for it, and a good reason, but there are oftentimes as women of God, and I can only speak to you as a woman of God, right? Because I would, the way how the women of the world sees marriage is not the way we do.
Oh, talk about that.
When I stood at that altar and I stood before God and I made a vow to God. So above all things, whether he messes up, whether he does or he doesn't do, or he will or he will not, Bev's got to hold on to what she knows is right.
Yes.
What the word says. And if the word says, I got to admit, there are days where he'll come in and he'll say certain things and I don't like it and I probably will go off too. But at the end of that day,
yes,
I do what is being told to do. And it's sometimes a toughie. Because submission can mean so many different things, right? Different people, depending on where you're from.
Yes.
From a standpoint of a woman of God, being submissive to your husband is so important to God, and it honors him, but it also keeps you the woman of God. It really does, and God holds them accountable even if they don't hold themselves accountable. Trust me.
Yep.
He does.
Yep.
He does, and he will defend you. He will, like when you, like I'll often say to him, I'm going to daddy about you. I'm done. And I'm just, I'm going to daddy. I'm telling him what you did. Because it's a thing. God is the one that's in between. He's the only one that you can tell anything about your husband, not the world, not people.
And let's talk about that. How was that process?
Let's keep your married life. I used to put stuff out on Facebook. Can I tell you, sis?
Come on.
Let's be real about this. Let me tell you. When I first got married, I was so excited and I wanted to share this, right? And so you don't even realize that there are people out there that are jealous. They'll tell you remarks like, well, I've been in church for so long and I'm doing right. How come I'm not married yet? And you're like, okay, but
nothing to do with you.
Some single folks you're going to have to keep away from also. They're going to keep putting you back into that space that you don't need to be in. And they will. And here's the thing. I was single for so long. I never looked at marriage the way I look at it now because I'm in it, right? I would have never understood the walk unless I've been here. While I was single, there were things I would say to girls, I would never do that, never do this, never do the other. Baby, when I got married, I saw different, okay? I did it because there was a different status. There was a different mindset. And again, it's a vow for God. You made this vow before God. And so what does the word say about you as a woman of God? And how you should stand and what you should do. And when your husband is going through something, should you just stand and go, girl, baby, that's all right? Or should you go pray and cry out to God for him? How do you become the backbone for that man? Even if he doesn't want you to be. Even when there's difficult times and he may not see, but you see, you got to know what to do. You got to go to God for strategy. You got to be able to take things even when it's not, it's not necessary. But that's what being a wife, being a, we're nurturers by nature. And what God requires of us requires us to nurture the men. So I had to learn how to, instead of ministering my daughter, what I used to do now, the ministering is now I got to minister to my husband.
Mm-hmm.
I got to speak to him from a place. And I'm now learning that piece, the ministering piece, because the way how we talk to them and the way how our tones and how we speak to them and how we would delay certain messages to them is so important. And it plays a part in the submissiveness.
Yeah.
No man wants a rowdy woman. No man wants a woman who's rah, 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 ba, 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 da, da, da. And sometimes it doesn't mean that you're rowdy in person, but when you get angry and this thing bothers you and this person is doing whatever they're doing and whatever, and you want to just express it, sometimes the expression is not right.
Ah.
And so you got to take it down a notch. Remember, this is a life. This isn't somebody, whatever. This is my partner.
Yes.
That's man in my life.
Yes.
And and if I am to have him as a man, it's just like prophesying or speaking that thing. I can't go there with this.
Right.
So my tone has to be taken down. My whole anxiety, if I'm too anxious, if I'm too angry, give me a minute. Give me a minute.
Yes.
Yes. Let's talk about this market today, not today. But that's where the partner comes in, the understanding, patience, the love.
Yes.
I got you.
Yes.
It's going to be moments, but ultimately, those are the things that I see that for me, and I can, like, again, for me, I have to work on my tone, my approach to him. Being a single woman, very stern, always in control, carrying leadership roles throughout her life. That was tough.
Yeah.
To a marriage. And now I gotta submit. I gotta say this. I gotta do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it. Well, it's not about you right now. It's not about you today.
Yeah.
This is not the self Bev. This is Bev with a partner, a life partner God's placed in your life. It's not about what you think. It's not about what you feel.
Yeah.
It's about what you know, God. What did God say about this? What did he say about this? Forget about that. Let's go in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 13, and look up what love looked like.
Yes.
Let's look up that. Because that's what you're sharing, to a love,
Yes.
right? So let's look at that. And if we look at that, right there, the puffed upness shouldn't even come. Because love is not puffed up.
Yes.
Love is not easily provoked. And then we don't fight against flesh and blood. We fight against all the principalities, powers, and things and wicked things in high places and stuff. We can go on, but we don't fight against each other, right? And the minute I got to understand that is when I start understanding, okay, the enemy comes, but I have to stand my ground. And I have to take over this role, and I have to be this person. And it's not just for them, my husband.
Yeah.
I'm doing it unto God. My God, this is deeper than I thought it was.
Yeah.
I gotta pay more attention to this thing. And maybe for about a minute, for a year or two, I might have to put some things down. I may have to do some fasting.
Yeah.
I may have to try to find who I am and work on some triggers and some things in order for my marriage to work. I just may have to.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Because God knew the day this person walked into my life that this was going to happen.
Yes.
He knew it, right? He knew. So he's looking for me to be that mature woman of God, to stand my ground and to do what I need to do so he can walk in and do what he needs to do. And sometimes it's not always, but for the most part, you see a lot of Christian women marrying men who are out there in the world, or or the man is in Christ, but he's not as strong as the woman is. I know for me that was our situation, but as I started praying, he would pray.
Mm.
As I started, because he was already in church. My husband is a musician in our church,
Okay.
but I move in the prophetic
Mm-hmm.
because I graduated from the prophetic school. So for me, I'm a little bit more into this than he is. For him, it's I pray, I go to church, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
But the influence I brought to his life is okay. This is more than just getting
Mm-hmm.
up and praying and whatever. God is bigger than that,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So.
I think that's big too. I'm currently single and now approaching the dating world to say I'm open to it again.
Yeah.
Was one of the things I had to really evaluate. It was pushing me to say, okay, if he's Christian, great. But what does Christian mean to him? Because if it means something different to him than it does to me, it might not work out. And my preference is that the male that I, tie myself to or connect with, things of that sort, is a Christian because that's what I am. It just helps the flow just a lot better for me, But like you said, like, is it just coming to church good enough? And I was like, no, I need somebody that's able to pray me through because sometimes I got some stuff going on too. And I
Yes.
pray for somebody else, but to have somebody else pray for you, like, in a sense, like your own personal cheerleader.
Yes.
Your personal cheerleader,
You need that. And
yeah.
I'm telling you, there were mornings he would come over, because he always would come over and say, hey, babes, I'm leaving. And he'll kiss me or hug me or whatever. And I'd be like, no, stop. I need you to pray for me.
Yeah.
I know in his mind when he first started doing that, it would be like, well, I don't know how to pray, babe.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn.
Yeah.
Holy Spirit's going to teach you.
Yes.
I need this.
Yeah.
The days I can't do this.
Mm.
And I need you to do this for me.
Yes.
So it's important that you learn how to.
Mm-hmm.
This is what touches God's heart.
Yes.
So let me show you. And that even for that was tough because he's a man.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe in really teaching men how to do that type of stuff. But what he did was he was so open to it. He just started doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And now, it's a norm. If I say, hey, I need prayer, he'll pray.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing for him. But it started off that way, right? It started off that way. Yeah.
So that's interesting. You said you like the teaching part. And I think we're always teaching people how to handle us, how to work with us by the example that we put forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So unconsciously, we're teaching people all the time. It's like,
Yes.
if you're going to keep calling me dumb, I'm not going to answer to you. After all, you're going to call by my name because my name is Jen.
Yes.
If you keep, negating what it is that I am and I ignore, eventually you'll find out, okay, let me get on the right track. Or if it's something that I like, I'll start doing a little bit more. Be like, she always makes sure I have X, Y, and Z. Let me make sure she has X.
There you go. Until God, that's another thing about marriage. Sometimes you have to keep doing a thing even if they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Until God, I keep talking to God about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I'm learning again.
Mm-hmm.
I would go and approach him and just, hey, this is not good. This is not good. This is not good. So if every day he does something that's not good, and every day I go at him about that not good thing, it's nagging.
Yeah.
It becomes nagging.
Yeah.
God don't even do that, right?
Mm.
He knows that that's just, and we can be that way.
Yes.
We can be that as women. So for now, what I'm learning to do is, God, this thing is irking me. You have to teach me how to take it down, how to not let these triggers come, because they will come. When my mom died last year, just before I got married, my mom died in the month of June, right? I got married in October, mom died in June. And my mom death brought on so many triggers. Thank God we were dating before the death. He was always supportive of me. I would have never understood. I went through this. Anxiety was creeping up. Triggers were popping up that I never thought I had. My response in the way I was crying constantly. I lost my best friend. Where I would call her about things. Now I had nobody.
Yeah.
to talk to at that level of
Mhm.
trust. And,
Mhm.
you know, and it was a tough time. But in the midst of it, we were also going through our difficulties before the marriage. Because, you know,
Mhm.
getting married and setting up married ring and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
it was really, really, really tough. So when those triggers came up, I don't think he knew how to deal with it.
Mhm.
I didn't know how to. He didn't know how to. I
Mhm.
had to go see somebody. I had to because I didn't even know how to be vulnerable.
Mhm.
I didn't even know how to be vulnerable because I've been strong for so long. So that played a part again.
Mhm.
You don't have to be strong in this. That's not your role.
Mhm.
How do you take that down?
Wow.
How do you take that down? A part of you that's been there for so long.
Mhm. Mhm.
I had to. It's only this year that I started taking some of that stuff down
Okay.
and just recognizing, okay, I don't have to be this. I don't have to be that. I don't have to be this. I just have to be the wife for him.
Mhm.
Being the wife doesn't mean you're a mommy. He's not your son.
Mhm.
He's not your son. He's not. Let me repeat that, people. He is not your son. He has a mother.
Mhm.
He's alive. He
Yeah.
gets enough of that from her. You are not his mother.
Mhm.
I had to get that. I had to get that. I had to go back to God and go, oh my God, Jesus. God works with us.
Mhm.
When you come to him, he works with you. The humbling has to be there. You're willing to humble yourself to not just the man's submission, but God. Because if you ultimately submit to God, you're going to submit to the man.
Yeah.
And that's what the hand in hand goes. You got to put God. That's the completeness. On the days you can't trust that man for a thing, because maybe he's shown you where he messed up in this area. It doesn't mean he's a bad person. It doesn't mean he's, but I go back to God now. Okay, I can't trust him in this area. This ain't working, God. But trust me. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let your expectation be from me.
Mhm.
And know that I have equipped you for this.
And that's so good. That's so good because I've worked with couples, and sometimes when the trust is broken, it's hard to go back for some.
It really is. God has to literally, I think sometimes he even have to separate us to bring us back again. I
Mhm.
have seen where situations have happened with him and I where we just didn't talk about it anymore.
Mhm.
But then at the right time, God will bring that thing back and you're able to say what you need to say. And you're able to say it in such a loving way that they receive it, they understand it.
Mhm.
So in marriage, because it comes from God,
Yes.
I believe God is the one thing that helps you
Yes.
in your decision making, in your actions, in your behaviors, in your if God isn't present,
Yeah.
you doing certain things, if
Not gonna work.
okay, so I don't commit. Go to God. Let him work with you.
Mhm.
Not only will he give you the grace, because you're going to need the grace.
Mhm.
That person that he may not want to be patient.
Mhm. Mhm.
So God helps you with the grace. He helps you with your character.
Mhm.
He helps you with your mindset.
Yes.
You can see things on a different perspective. His perspective.
Yes.
That's the gold. God, I need to get your perspective in this.
Mhm.
This mine ain't working.
Yeah.
I'm a little rude today.
I like what you said of how when you pray, you're also asking God to help you, because a lot of times we feel like, God, something's wrong with them. You need to fix it out because something needs to change. But sometimes what if we have to change? What if we are the change?
There you go.
One
of the things that my therapist said to me when I started going to her when my mom died was, we can't change people, right? She's like, but if we change, everything else around us change.
Mm-hmm.
It just has to.
Has
It falls in line with the change.
Yeah.
So okay, you can't change them, but what's in you that needs to be changed that can help the situation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So good. So good. So Beverly, are you a mom?
I am. I have, my daughter is 20. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, she turned 25.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter, Arian. I have one child,
Okay.
but I have 2 stepdaughters.
Okay.
So we do have a blended family.
Okay. When you were, pregnant with your daughter, what were your expectations of parenting? Was it anything of what you thought it would be based on like your experience or what you had seen, or just like how you felt it would be? As kids, we played around with dolls and things, and we just knew everything would be all together.
Yeah.
How was it for you?
I actually wanted a boy. You're like, Mom. No, I got a beautiful girl. I got a very intelligent, smart, independent young lady.
Yeah.
When I had my daughter, my expectation was that I was going to do all these extra things with her and whatever. But my daughter was a daddy's girl.
Wow.
My daughter ended up being a major daddy's girl. She emulated her. Till this day, they best friends. She is a daddy's girl to the core. I am mommy. Yeah, you mommy. But that's my dad. She loves her dad, and she is so close to her dad. But I get it. I'm an introvert. My daughter's an extrovert. My daughter likes certain things that I don't like. So as growing up, it was a little bit difficult for us when she became teenager.
Mm-hmm.
So she went to live with her dad at age 15. But for the rest, she was with me because she started to get a bit difficult at the teenage stage. And I think it was important for her to be around that.
Mm-hmm.
He had settled down at that time. He was getting married. He had a house in Upper Darby, and it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good because she was able to shift schools, which I wanted. It was where she now started to go to Upper Darby High School, and things were different. She was introduced to a better lifestyle, more diverse lifestyle.
Yeah.
Being where she was growing up now in Upper Darby, there were different, religions, different races, and different stuff that she was experiencing in her school, and it was opening her up to different things that when she was in Philly with me, going to these high schools in Philly, it just wasn't happening. And it was more, she was getting into trouble, the boyfriend stuff. But while my daughter was a teenager, her and I, we were a pack.
Okay.
When you see me, you see her.
Mm-hmm.
You see her, you see me.
Yes.
I ushered, she was ushering too. Just until she became a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my daughter and I was very close up until teenage stage, but she was a big tomboy.
Mm-hmm.
She, my nephews and her became so tight. My sister's 2 sons, and they grew up together very closely, and so because they were boys,
Yeah.
I would take her to dance studios so that she can learn how to dance, and they would say she's too rough. So I finally got her into the karate through Ed Iannucci, Kim's Karate, which she learned quite, I can't pronounce the thing, Kwaitango or whatever. It's like a form of karate. There you go.
Yeah.
And so she went all the way up to blue belt, just one notch before the black. But yeah, she would always get upset at me because I was always getting her into extracurriculum stuff. I don't believe in kids staying home and just on TV all the time. I always had her in something. I believed in doing something, exploring, doing things, being a part of a group, being a part of society, the community, being a part of our church and the youth group and the princess ministry and whatever it is that will get you to that place and to help you to better your mind and shift the scope of this ghetto mentality. Need for you to be in it. And I would always support her in that way.
Gotcha.
And it's just the way I am. I always loved extracurricular things. I'm into singing and dancing and arts and drama and just all that stuff. And I wanted her to have that type of life. I didn't want her to. I didn't want to force her. Forced her, but I always told her try it.
Got it.
Liked it. Mom will keep paying for it. If she said she wanted to sew, I bought her a sewing machine and I sent her to sewing class. She liked it, but I think after about a year of it, she started getting into the teenage thing because she was at her tweens at that time. So yeah, for me, it was just making sure my daughter and I had a great grooming relationship and getting her involved in things so that she can be a better citizen when she grew up. And it did pay off because my daughter, when she was finished with college, new business, she had her own business, her own side hustle till this day. She has 2 or 3.
Yes.
But she has her own side hustle. She has her own business for makeup and lashes. She now rents cars out for Uber or Lyft or something. So my daughter is so independent and so business minded. I'm not worried.
Very nice.
She rents furniture for, entertainment purposes for halls and stuff. So there's always money coming in.
Yeah.
I taught her that streams of income.
Yeah.
So she's always busy doing that stuff. I have a beautiful grandson.
Yes.
His name is August. And in October, he will be 2 years old.
Oh.
He's my little sunshine. And yeah, and I'm really proud of her.
Yes.
I am so proud of her. She's doing things at this age that I never dreamt about doing. My daughter travels 3-4 times in a year. She'll buy things, she'll do whatever she wants, and she has the flexibility and the mindset to just get to whatever she needs to. And I love that about her.
Yes. So how has co-parenting been for your daughter's father? Because we also have some listeners that it might not be their strong suit. What are some words of wisdom for co-parenting?
Put your emotions to the side.
Ooh.
It's not about you. It's not about you.
You were ready. Got it. Continue.
It's not about you. It really isn't. It's about that child. Her dad and I had some major back and forth, but we never brought it to her. She stayed neutral. When we on the phone, we're going to probably, she would, but if we're having a function and there's something going on that I got her involved in, he knew about it, would be invited to it, he will always be there. He had access to her schools. He had access to certain things, even though he paid child support. And he paid child support for a while, but when she went to live with him at 14, I paid child support.
Okay.
So it was equally done. She didn't live with him while she was living with me, but on the weekends he had her. Every other weekend, he would take her. And sometimes in the week, if I need it or he needs to, or whatever the case may be. It wasn't easy. It just wasn't easy. I know that. And I can tell people that it's not. It's not easy to overlook hurts and pains and things that other people have caused you.
Yes.
To just stop that emotion and just move forward. It's not. It is not, especially when you've been with that person for a while and there was love there. It is not. Or if that other person is treating you even worse than you want to treat them, it is not easy. And I know a lot of you have stories like, you don't understand. Sis, bro, this child is more important than anything.
Yeah.
What this child sees and how this child sees it is how they're going to respond to things when they get older.
Yeah.
So it's so important that you put those things to the side. When you argue by yourself over here, where she ain't around or he ain't around.
Yes.
You let that child have a love life. Let that child have a happy life. Let that child love on both parents. And there were times I know she would say to me, Mom, if I go to say something, then she would think I'm saying something about him because she loved her dad so much. She'd be like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Oh, okay. But I'm sure if he says something, you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Those are the things we can't do.
Yeah.
When they get older, they'll tell you about it. It offended them.
Yes.
I was one of those parents who sat with my daughter for after college, and I asked her to tell me all the things that she was mad at me for. Because when my daughter went to her dad, she was mad that I did that. She was mad that I did that. She said to me as she got older, I felt like you abandoned me.
Wow.
And for whatever reason I did it, it wasn't her reason. Because at that time, at the age she was, that's what she saw. Yeah? So I had to sit down and go, tell me all the things you're mad at me about. And I think sometimes as parents, it's hard for us to do that because it means the child's going to tell us what we were right about doing or wrong, or their version of what we were right or wrong. So it took a lot for me to sit there and listen to you break down some things that I know I wasn't wrong about, but I need for you to be healed from.
I love it.
I need for you to move past this and not hate me.
Yes. Yes.
And let this action that was done, but whether right or wrong, be the thing that's causing our relationship to have a major turn off. And so once you've done that and you've given them what they need and you've appealed to their emotions and stuff, if they keep treating you bad, because then okay, that's something I can't do. I can't go inside of you and take away the healing or
right.
hurt, whatever. I have done my part. Now it's up to you. And so my daughter was in that place she and I were in that place for a while. We were talking for about a year, and she was mad. She was very mad at me, and she felt like I abandoned her. Now that she's older, she knows different. She would say to me, Mom, I know I did some messed up things. I realize that now, and like we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Time heals.
Yes.
Sometimes he got to go through the separation to bring us back to go. All right, let's talk about this.
Yes.
I believe in time healing. I don't believe in like we got to get this out now. I can't say what I want to say. Give it a minute. By next week, maybe we can talk. I believe in that. I don't believe in coming at people when you are mad and upset and whatever. Like you need to just chill for a little bit. Let's chill.
Yeah.
Now, if you push me to go, I'm gonna say things you don't like. I'm gonna go there with things you don't like.
Yeah.
I have to, and understanding yourself in understanding your personality, in
Mhm.
understanding who you are.
Yes.
Sometimes you just got to take the back seat and say, all right, I'm not this, not, no. When I'm ready, I'm going to tell you what I need to tell. This is not the time. And so my daughter and I, we were mad at each other for about a year or two. Yeah. And she wasn't talking to me. She had a hate. And it was the most hardest thing I had to go through.
Mm.
I had to go through some things with her. And it felt like I lost my half of me.
Mm.
It's your child.
Yeah, yeah.
A little different. And so when I knew God would tell me that it's going to work out eventually. And that gave me some hope. I would hear people prophesying to me about the situation. And based on what I was seeing, it was like, I can't, that's not going to happen. But glory be to God.
Yes.
Listen, in obedience and in staying in the pathway that He had put me on, and I thought, but I followed and I followed Him and I followed and I kept following God. And I know He can do a thing. I can tell anybody.
Mm.
People tell you, girl, no, you need to leave them to their own messed up self, and they should be doing what you tell them to do because they your child. And you brought them in the world, and you. No, they got emotions just like we do.
Yes.
I think we forget that we're young ones and what we go through. And my God, these boys have to deal with so much in this today world, more than we ever thought we had to go through when we were in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. They go through it now.
Mm-hmm.
Emotions, right?
Yes.
So they're even though they are your child and they have to be submissive and obedient.
Yeah.
Don't mean you're right all the time. Don't mean that
You're right all the time.
Yeah, and I hate it when I see parents do that because I say it.
Yes.
I get that. But what do they feel? And you have to remember, whatever happens now, this person, as they're growing up, they're
Yes.
growing into a character here. And what had happened on that situation plays a part for her further down.
Yes.
And it's something that we don't recognize we got to answer to God for. Because He gave you that challenge to do that. So it's up to you how you raise that child.
Yes.
If you knew you were spoiling that child and enabling that child, you want to talk to God about that when you get up there at that Bema seat. Because again, He gave you that. And He's saying you're supposed to be the one. I put you for this child.
Yes.
So you may not be accountable to those folks out there in the world, to her father, to what you're accountable to me. And so what you do does matter.
Yes.
So there's apologies. There are things that even as parents, we have to do. And for those parents who say, well, no, I brought them in the world, I'm going to take them out. No, baby.
Yeah.
No, baby. It's bigger than that. It is bigger than that. And I think that's why a lot of us, the 70s and the 80s, our generations are so jacked up. Mentally, I should say.
Okay.
Emotionally, because we had to deal with that. Whatever I tell you, you gonna do, whether it's right or wrong. You're gonna shut up and go sit down in that corner. You don't say nothing.
And the generation today doesn't play that. They want to know why. But why? Could you give me more information on that?
You're going to have to tell me a little bit more, Mama.
Yes.
That's not going to work for me.
But I encourage that conversation with parents because, like you said, when you had that conversation with your daughter of, tell me all the things, really having an open communication helps us to be able to manage our emotions because emotional intelligence is very important. If I know I'm irritated, agitated, I'm going to fall back a little bit. If I'm happy, I'm going to keep on doing what it is that I'm doing. But if I don't know that I'm irritated, agitated, and I keep going, I'm going to blow up.
Breaking the curse.
Yeah.
I did not want it to be the way it was with my mother and I.
Yeah.
Because I could not have those conversations with her. I wanted to.
Yes.
And I could not. She will not let me have those conversations. And because I am that obedient daughter, I go, all right, Mom. She would not let you tell her that she was wrong or explain why you feel the way you do. She didn't do that. Those parents back in the days, they didn't have time to say I love you. They didn't have time to hug you. That's my word. That was my world. That was my world. The love, how I knew you loved me, you worked, you make sure I had everything I need. You had 3-4 jobs and you paid them bills and you whatever. That's the only way I knew you loved me. And I think we got to get better than that. I did not want it to be that way with me and my daughter. I did not want it to be that she went through life thinking that I hated her or I whatever. So I took that brunt and I sat and I talked with her. Doesn't mean that we don't have other things to overcome as mother and daughter.
Yeah.
No, we're growing.
Yeah.
It's growing. It's a lot. But that piece of it, I needed for it to stop right there, right there. And not let it be like how my relationship with my mom, because that was things I yearned for with her. I wish I could tell her about this one thing. I won't take it because she won't start saying, "Oh, why is your mother?" I can't even have this conversation with her.
Yeah.
What? Meanwhile, you're making a wrong decision based on that, right? And now you're going into paths and doing things that you shouldn't do because you're like, well, she can't know and whatever. Now you're putting yourself into more situations.
Yes.
That mother didn't sit down and take that time to give you her point of view of this on an honest level, on a let me just tell you this, baby. That's simple. Yeah, there are things about my mother. I think she went to the grave with that. She just you're like, Mom, but how? That's what you would get. Like, I told you that's none of your business. Now go on. It's things, and I think it's a generation.
Yes.
A lot of us grew up in households where if something happened, there were sexual issues, there were things that went on. And what did the mom say?
Happens in our house stays in our house.
I know Uncle did that, but we're going to work on him. But you just don't put that up. Meanwhile, that child growing up, just giving out herself, sexing with everybody. You fussing at her. Mentally, that child going through. And nobody sat down and took that child and took time to talk to that child and tell that child that we love you, or, because we don't want to touch that. We don't, Uncle this and this, and Sally that and that. So it's important for us to break curses. Break those generational caps and curses so that our kids can be better individuals, so that when they have their kids can become better individuals.
Yes.
Healing Healing, girl. Healing.
Yeah. Needed. What are your words of wisdom to others that may find themselves in any of similar situations you have been in?
The one thing that kept me through all of those situations from day one, as I was introduced to him from a little girl, was God. Consistent. I always say that. The one consistent thing in my life, the one thing that I can be sure of, one thing that I know that, and I can trust, and I can, whoo, Yahweh, Jesus, Holy Spirit, the guidance, the direction, the comfort. Thy rod and thy staff, those chastisement, those times when he said no to me, when I wanted to go on my own and I wanted to do things on my own, but he kept me. Even though I went through so much in life, I can give you stories of things and people who tried to rape me or do things to me because my body was like a 20-year-old at age 10. I grew up so quick. At age 18, at age 8, I was wearing a size 8.5. Grown up size. I was already with, the breast and stuff where all the other girls weren't. But once I grew up and I shoot up, I stopped. So I've been this size since I was probably 10, 11. And then I stopped. I just major growth, right? So I say that to say, God knows your beginning and he stands at the end. That's why he's the Alpha and the Omega. And everything else in between. Let him be whatever you need him to be in your life. Because that right there, throughout my whole life, the one thing I can always count on, even when mommy dies, the best friend, or the daughter is not around, or the husband lets you down, consistently, you got him. Abba. Just there. And he wants you to come to him. He wants you to come and lay these burdens down on him. It doesn't mean he's going to fix them right away. He works on them, but also he works on you so that you can become better for them and the people around you. Because he's the one who's putting all these little things together in your life, right? If he's the Lord and Savior of your life, he's strategically putting the puzzles where they need to go.
Yes.
So that I would invite anybody to make him the beacon, the banner. He says, I'm your Jehovah, Nisi, your banner. I go before you. He's your shepherd. That the Lord is my shepherd psalm. That's deep to me.
Yes.
Because that shows he's everything. My rest, he's my renewal, he's my food, he's my guide. He's gonna chastise me sometimes, but he gonna always make sure I walk through the pathway that I need to.
Yes.
He'll lay a table before me in the presence of my enemy. He will anoint my head with oil. He's always gonna be that daddy for me. That right there. If I am to tell anybody my life and what I've gone through, I can give you all of the bad. And my God, I can keep them and write them down. And baby, you might cry over some of them. But the consistent good thing is Yahweh. Yeah. Jesus Christ. That blessed Trinity. Just prayer. Constant prayer. Prayer when you don't even know. Prayer when you do know. Prayer when you ain't sure.
Yeah.
When even in you're weary, and if you can't pray, praise. And if you can't praise, read the word. And if you can't read the word, get to church. And if you can't get to church, call a saint. But baby, stay close to God.
Mm.
He is a refuge. He is going to be a rock. He's going to be a friend. He's going to, oh my God. Doesn't mean he's going to take away the bad. But that grace that he gives, hey,
Yes.
it's worth more than gold.
Yes.
It is worth more than gold. And on those days, just like you were asking me about my husband or my wife, people aren't sure about those things, and because he owns them too. He follows them too. And he loves them as well. So it's not much I can do about them and be wicked to them because he loves them too.
Yes.
That's why we got him, so that I can trust him because he knows the big scope of things. You know how they would say, understand the big picture?
Yes.
He sees the helicopter view of the situation, whereas we're just walking on the street, just aimlessly don't know where to go. He's like looking down the helicopter going, okay. So go here. She got to turn this corner. She got to make it up the street. Her husband got to come this way. Her child got to come that way. The friends and families are over here, and I'm even covering them. At the end of the day, I know how to do this thing. Well, you don't, because I hear the heart. I know the mind. I can see what you can't see. And just like the Psalm 62 says, God, my expectation comes from you.
Yes.
Make your expectation from him. Let him complete you. Because when man fails, when child fails, when friends, mommy, daddy, everybody fails.
And we will fail.
You got him. And that is my one major advice in anything that you're doing. Let God be your compass. Let him be that expectation in your life. And let nothing else come between that. I don't care who they are. I don't care who they are. Well, this is my mom. This is my husband. You let nobody come between you and Jesus. Never. Let them know from day one. This is where I am.
Yeah.
And if you're going to love me, you're going to have to love me with Jesus. This is my walk. And anyone who takes you off of the pathway that God has you in, they ain't worth being around. You need to walk away from that. You need to walk away from that. They take you from that pathway that God had you in there. That ain't it. That ain't that person. That's the first way you know. Oh, he strayed me away. He's giving. No. Oh. Shut it down.
Yes.
Shut it down. That's my advice. God.
Thank you for listening to the Blending Fab podcast. This podcast has been brought to you by our sponsor, Chosen Counselors. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already, and follow us on Instagram at blending_fab. Check out this snippet from our next episode.
So the most that you can do once they get here is to let them be who they should be and not be a statistic, not them have the same stereotype. Once they get here, just break the mold. Whatever curse that was on the making of him, remove it, that break it. And that's it.